When the companions of the Prophet Muhammad are mentioned, many people often think of just the men. However, there were some great women and female companions of the Prophet Muhammad that helped the early Muslim community in various ways. Welcome back to another episode of FTD Facts. This is LEROY KENTON, and in this episode I'm going to be looking at 10 surprising stories of female companions of the Prophet Muhammad. So let's begin. Starting at number 10, we have NUSAYBAH BINT Ka'ab. Now, this woman is a real hero and she's a tremendous fighter. She was also known as Amara, and she was part of the Battle of Uhud, where she participated by giving water to people who are thirsty and injured. And Prophet Muhammad, in that battle, he actually lost his teeth, and most of the companions either got martyred or they fled the war. Now, when Amara, she saw his face bleeding, she dropped her containers of water and she literally took up a sword of one of the escaping fighters, as well as a bow and arrow from another fighter. And she did this to defend the Prophet. She also participated in the Battle of Yamama, where she lost her hand during the battle. So she was front line. The next female companion we're going to be looking at is ASMA bint UMAIS. Now, she was one of the earliest converts to Islam, and she was married to Ja'far bin Abu Talib. Now, when he was martyred in the Battle of Mu'tah, she married Abu Bakr. After he passed away, she remarried again to Abdurrahman bin Auf. And then when he passed away, she ended up marrying Ali bin Abu Talib. So a lot of tragedy and a lot of remarrying in her life. Now, when the Prophet Muhammad was going to perform the Hajj pilgrimage, Asma was in her final trimester of pregnancy, but she was so eager to perform Hajj as well that she wasn't even worried that she was so heavily pregnant. She was determined to do it. At number 8, we have HAKIM bin HARITH. Now, she was a woman who was the wife of Ikramah, son of Abu Jahl, and she accepted Islam on the day of the conquest of Mecca. She also led her resistant husband to convert to Islam as well, and this took many attempts. And since he actually had run away when the Muslims gained victory, and she went to find him literally in the middle of nowhere. Then her husband was unfortunately martyred, and then she remarried. Eventually, her second husband got martyred as well, and during that battle, she tightened her clothes and pulled out some poles of the tent, and she went out and slayed 7 armed enemy men. So yeah, literally 1 woman versus 7 men, and they didn't stand a chance against her. Number 7 brings us to SULAYM bint MALHAN. She was the mother of a famous companion, Anas bin Malik, and she converted to Islam before her whole family did, and her husband ended up divorcing her because she converted. Now, when Anas bin Malik turned 10 years old, SULAYM took him to the Prophet Muhammad and offered him to his services. So Prophet Muhammad took him in and he stayed with him for about 10 years. And that's one of the reasons why there's so many hadith narrated by Anas. Number 6 brings us KHANSA. Her full name was Tamadur bint Amr, and she's usually referred to as KHANSA though. But she was a very eloquent woman, and she was a poet. She was so great that even famous Arab poets used to call her the best of all the poets among humans and jinns. She used to cry a lot, and she cried so much that her eyes began to form dark circles around them. But her deep emotions would bring everyone else around her to cry with her, and her ability to express her emotions like this, it really carried through into her poetry. After becoming a Muslim, she was known as KHANSA when the Prophet Muhammad saw her and said, Ya KHANSA. Halfway in at number 5, let's look at Fatima bint Muhammad. Of course, she is the 5th child of the Prophet Muhammad and Khadija. She was born at a time when her father had begun to spend a lot of time in solitude in the mountains around Mecca, just to pray and meditate, things like that. And when she was 5 years old, she heard that her father had become the messenger of God. And his first task was to convey the news of Islam to his family and close relations. They were to worship God and only God. Now, her mother, who was a real pillar of strength and support, she spoke to Fatima at such a young age that her father was going to be doing this, And from that time, that's when she became a lot more attached and really felt a deep love for her father Muhammad. Fatima also accompanied the Prophet when he made Umrah in the 6th year after the Hijrah, after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. And then in the following year, she and her sister Kulthum, they were among the mighty group of Muslims, as well as Muhammad was there during the liberation of Mecca. Number 4 brings us Salamah. Now, Salamah was the wife of Prophet Muhammad also, and she was known for her beauty, her wisdom, as well as her knowledge. And get this, she also narrated 378 hadith. She used to take good care of her facial beauty, yet she was someone who was also very modest in her dressing, and she wanted other women to be modest too. It was narrated from Salamah that she mentioned women's hems to the Prophet Muhammad, and he said, "Let it down a handspan." Salamah said, "But that will uncover her feet." He said, "Let it down a forearm's length, but no more than that." Next up at number 3, we have JUWAIRIYAH bint HARITH. Now this woman, she was a Jewish royal. In one hadith, Aisha describes her saying this, and I quote, "She was a pleasant woman. No one saw her except he became captivated by her." But it was the beauty of her religion as she lived it out that really made her attractive. Because Aisha also said this about her: "I knew of no other woman who brought greater blessing to her people than JUWAIRIYAH." Also, her entire tribe became Muslim after she accepted Islam. Number 2 brings us HIND bin UTBAH. This woman, like whatever she did it with all her heart, whether it was good or bad. And she had a lot of anger towards Muslims. She was so intense that she accompanied the army to the Battle of Uhud and wanted to disfigure Muslim bodies. Eventually, though, she converted to Islam, and because of her attitude that she previously had towards Muslims, she had a lot of remorse, and she kept doubting as to whether or not she could actually face Muhammad. And she ended up veiling her face completely so that when Prophet Muhammad saw her, he wouldn't really recognize who she was. And that's how she took her Shahada and officially became Muslim. Now we end this episode off at number 1. We have BAREERAH. She was an Arab slave girl, and she was forced to marry another slave who was named Mughith. And he was somebody that she did not like at all. But as a slave back then, she didn't have much choice, so she had to get married to him, and she ended up having children with him. Now Aisha, she said this: "Bara came to me and said, 'I have agreed with my masters to pay them.' And Aisha helped her get free by paying her masters a certain price, and then she was completely set free. And then when BAREERAH was a free woman, she was given the choice to keep her marriage with her slave husband or to leave him, and she ended up choosing to leave him. Then after she left her husband, she went on to become a great scholar, and she taught Islam till the day she passed away. And that's it for this episode, guys. This concludes this one, looking at 10 surprising stories of female companions of Prophet Muhammad. Definitely these women were great in their own right, and they achieved a lot. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Gave you a new look at some of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, not just the male ones. So as always, I want to hear your thoughts and comments about anything that I mentioned in this video down below. Don't forget to leave a like before you head on out of here. And also subscribe if this is your first time here to FTD Facts. That way you won't miss any videos when we post them. Until next time, guys, stay awesome, stay educated. See you soon.